Hello, House Hero Clam. Happy Friday, and welcome to Real Estate Market Update for July 17th to July 24th here in the great area of Southern California. We are the House Heroes. We give you this weekly market update every single week. We want to keep you informed on what's happening in Southern California real estate, how the market goes, the values, the mortgage rates, all of it. And we want to give you the best news and the most effective news in real estate industry as possible. My name is Troy. The other house hero is...
I'm Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. How's it going, buddy?
Doing all right. And obviously we got Roxy, who's out showing properties right now.
Yes.
Wheeling and dealing, trying to keep deals together as well because... You know, it's so nuts out there. These lenders, we'll talk about it a little bit when we hit in the news, but these lenders are so overwhelmed right now that everything's getting pushed out. The appraisers are overwhelmed and we've got slow time frames. And then, you know, deals get pushed out longer and longer as it's through underwriting. And, you know, I feel like I spend a lot of my time on the phone, you know, talking people off the ledge. I'm more of a psychiatrist than anything else. You know, I'm talking to the agent, the sellers, the buyers, the lenders, trying to keep everybody's head in it as things get pushed out, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, we have a pandemic going on. We have an unemployment rate that's high. And literally, it's industry by industry that's being affected or not affected at all. And so our industry, as we rolled into the December, January, February months, we just saw this enormous tidal wave, which I actually came out back then and said, it's a tidal wave of buyers coming in. Then we had the pandemic, stay at home, and everybody it kind of shut down. Except for few industries, right? And one industry that did not shut down was real estate. It's an essential industry, number one. But number two, more importantly, we had a lot of millennial generation and Gen X's that were not really scared of this virus. And so they went out and they were looking at homes. Ryan, how many times did you see during the last 3 or 4 months you had just 5-10 offers on homes?
Oh, it was consistent all the way through. You know, we were lucky because we had a couple buyers that, you know, they got beat out. And then, you know, when the pandemic first hit, there were some people that did lose jobs or lose bookings. You know, there was a lot of, you know, self-employed out there. You know, one jumps to mind. He was a caterer. He lost some weddings and stuff. He decided to back out of escrow. We were right there. I was keeping in touch with the other agent and they're like, hey, we you know, this guy fell out. I said, hey, we'll slip in his spot exactly where he was. And I got 2 buyers in escrow that way just by taking somebody else's spot. They didn't even have to put it back active because they had multiple offers to start with. So, you know, I unfortunately haven't seen any property probably in the last 4 months that hasn't had multiple offers on it. You know, luckily we've been able to, you know, be the prevailing winner on a lot of those, but there's been some heartbreak along the way as well. I can't think of anything where we haven't had multiple offers though.
Well, I got to say, in the last 4 months, I've had one, and it was interesting because it got put on the market on a Sunday. We saw it the same day, and I put the offer together right away for my client. I called the agent, kept in communication, and that night the seller accepted the offer. We were the only offer on the property, and I wrote it for $5,000 over. And the seller said, "Hey, we're wanting to move to Canyon Lake. We already, you know, picked out a home." So it really made it kind of convenient. But in most instances, if they were not having a property in which they really liked or already picked out, that would have gone to multiple offers. I mean, any real estate agent that's looking for the best for their client, they're leaving on the market basically through one entire weekend and then making decisions on Monday or Tuesday. And that's what we're running into, you know, offer madness. I mean, there's just
50 offers. Yeah, it's just nuts.
It's crazy. Nuts. I mean, I've run this week alone. I've run to a 31 offer property and a 24 offer property. Unfortunately, I didn't get either one of them. And I mean, but I was a finalist of the 31. Of the 31, we were the top 3.
You were on the podium. You were a podium finisher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm in 3rd place, right? And looking up,
still in the top 10%.
So this is what we're seeing, and some of the things that are in the news are actually, again, verifying what we're talking about. I know that we don't like to go over some of the things that analysts have discussed in the respect that, you know, they're just looking from the outside looking in. We are in the trenches, right? And we are fighting every inch of the way. We have a lot of associates throughout the United States. We talk to them on a weekly basis. We know what they're going through and what they're seeing. So we want to convey that information out to you. But first, Ryan, tell us about what we launched this week.
Yeah, so if you guys watch our Tuesday Night Live on Facebook, we dropped our new home buyer's guide. So this is our summer edition. Like we talked about, we've also got a complete home buyer's guide that will be dropping in August. That's like 110 pages with hyperlinks to contracts and all kinds of other stuff. It is like the Bible of buying a home in this current market. But this is the overview. This is the TLDR, this is a Cliff Notes version. If you want some fun, pictures and be able to hit the bullet points, this is the one. So if you guys are interested in it, definitely go to Facebook, message us, shoot us a DM with your Facebook username, and we'll go ahead and get that out to you. Also, make sure if you're watching us on Facebook already, please go to YouTube and subscribe. That way you'll get updated every time that we have a new weekly market update drop. So definitely do that. But this guide is fantastic. And after reading it, if you have any questions, feel free, jump on one of our lives, message us in any of those platforms. We'll be more than happy to get back to you and answer those questions.
Yeah. Also, Ryan, DM us on Instagram as well, IG. Yep. We have it up. We'll have it up on IG as well, so we can get that out to you. And again, if you have any questions, we're very interactive. About if you're thinking about buying a house, if you're already in escrow, you're beginning the process, or even just having a friend who's in it, we're here to educate and empower you. So we'll give you all the information so it makes a more comfortable process for you and a more knowledgeable process for you.
Yeah, we're not here to grab every deal or anything like that. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients call and they're frustrated with their agent and they don't understand what's going on. And I'll look at, what's going on the back end with the other property. I'll call the listing agent and be like, hey, I just wanted to see like what's going on with this, and just do a little fact finding. And I tell them like, hey, your agent's got you in a good deal. I talked to the listing agent. This is kind of what's going on. Without giving too much information, like I would just stick it out. I wouldn't be able to do any better for you. Just it's sometimes it can be a tough process. I get that your agent's not communicating very well with you, but it seems like they're actually doing a good job. We've had clients shoot us over their contracts. Hey, what does this mean? What what are your thoughts on that? Hey, we'll give you our honest opinion. Like, hey, this is probably what they're thinking. I don't know. Maybe ask these questions. We'll just give you questions to ask. That's what we're here for. You want to educate yourself. You want to have that empowerment. You want to understand what's going on. So, if you're not getting the information you want, ask, and we'll give you some good questions to ask and different ways to ask it. So, but let's jump into in the news. So we've got, as we already knew, it's seller's market, but this is what's unreal. So profits on home sales jumped up, and in the second quarter, the return on investment for a seller has hit 36%.
Up 16%. That's ridiculous numbers. That shows the value of your home when you bought it, from the time you bought it to the time you sold it, has just soared at this point.
Yep. And so they're saying that home sellers have gained on average a $76,000 profit on a typical sale. And you got to remember, that's nationwide on this $350,000 or $330,000 national average. That is a huge, huge amount. So, but sellers in Denver, Boston, and San Francisco weren't so lucky. Well, San Francisco, I definitely understand right now.
Yeah.
And then here's basically existing home prices year over year. In the West, it was a 5.5% on average gain year over year. As we know, we've seen the 5.5% gain month over month for the last 2 or 3 months here. So the last month, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see as these trailing numbers keep coming out, and we're looking at year over year gain. I expect these numbers to continue this trend for the near future. One of the other ones that I liked, that this gave me a big chuckle. Troy and I were laughing at it as we were getting ready to cut and paste this one in there. 42% of people who bought homes during the pandemic engaged in a bidding war. I'm just laughing like, okay, so the other 58% heard, oh, you've got an offer. I'm not going to even engage that war. They just walked away. Because, who are these 58% of people? They must not have actually gotten their house.
Well, and it's nationwide, Ryan. So,
yeah.
There certain tolerances in different parts of the United States of the pandemic. Obviously, if we really look back in March and in April, it really hit hard in New York City. I
Yeah,
don't really
you
think
had
that if
Pennsylvania
you threw
that
your
shut
property
down.
up on the market,
Yeah.
you know, in certain areas in New York
Absolutely.
City, it would, if you got an offer, you were happy and you just took it and ran, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But here in
like
Southern
Pennsylvania shut down, things like that. No,
Right.
we definitely get it. But looking at it from our myopic view of like this small area, it cracks me up.
Yeah, but it's a very, I mean, if you think, even though Southern California is considered just a smaller part of the United States, it is a very, very,
Very high number.
it's a high number.
It really
you know,
is.
and it's really a key factor of the rest of the United States. All the trends typically start here in Southern California, and that wave then goes across the United States.
Yep. Great point. Great point. And then this is an article from March. And the reason we popped it up is there was a headline that, you know, last week we talked about mortgage rates hit a historic low. They crossed into the 2% threshold. The average per Freddie Mac was a 2.98 30-year mortgage. And they just jumped up over, I think Troy was saying it was 3.01 that Freddie Mac had announced earlier in the week. So they were saying like, oh, rates are going up. You know, we think it might be because of jobless claims numbers, anticipation, this and that. Honestly, the lenders we're dealing with, and we deal with a lot of lenders out there, they are all so overwhelmed right now. I know from talking to them firsthand, a lot of them have raised their rates on a lot of these websites and things like that because they just need to cut off the tap. They're basically trying to, you know, drink through a fire hose right now, and they're getting inundated. So all of their systems are getting overwhelmed. So a lot of them are trying to turn off the refinance tap, the spigot. And the only way to do that is, hey, let's raise rates on these internet sites. Let's not get our phones to ring off the hook anymore for refinances. Let's try and push the ones we've got through through this funnel, through this garden hose. And then let's go ahead and really focus on the purchase money business, because, you know, that's who really needs the help right now. When you're in escrow on a property, you want to be working with a lender who understands that a purchase money transaction is a priority, and they need to not be working on flooding their systems with refinance business just to clog it down, because you end up where we're at with a lot of lenders out there right now. They're completely overwhelmed, and their purchase money business takes a hit. And what that means to you as a consumer is your 30-day escrow becomes a 45-day escrow or a 60-day escrow, and they're constantly coming back to the underwriter who's looking at the file over and over again because they don't have enough time to look at it once thoroughly. They're looking at it a little bit, give them a bunch of conditions to go out and work on, and just try and kick the can down the road. And we've seen this where a processor's overwhelmed, where normally they'll sort through a file and make it nice and clean before it gets submitted to the underwriter, or if they have questions, they'll kick it back to the loan officer and ask before it goes to the underwriter. And now they're just pushing stuff through, and then the underwriter looks at it and goes, oh, well, shoot, all of these things should have been cleaned up first, and they give a preliminary list of conditions out. You think, we've sorted out the underwriter's conditions. You come back, and then now they're really looking at it for the first time. And instead of sending, 99% back out of what they're really going to need, they're sending out 90%. And so then you're clearing up all those, and you come back again, and you're like, wait, now you have like 2 more takes at these underwriters, and it's not a 1-day turnaround right now. It's a 3-day turnaround or a 5-day turnaround, some of these lenders. And it's just, it's unreal. And so we really got to make sure that we solve that. So if you guys are an escrow out there, make sure your agent is calling your loan officer daily or texting them. You don't want to overwhelm them too much, but you got to know what's going on. Where are we at in the process? What are the turn times? Where are we at in the process? What are the turn times? And that's what I do every morning. I got my trouble files. I call in. Hey, where are we at with this? At the night, hey, where do we end at this? And you got to keep abreast so that you can manage the seller's expectations. You can manage the listing agent's expectations, and, manage your own expectations as the buyer of when are we getting in, to this house. So
I mean, just to put it in a nutshell, we were looking at volume over profit, as we went into COVID. The second COVID hit, and this is why super low interest rates disappeared, is we went after, these mortgage lenders went after profit over volume. So the easiest way to get less people, less refis through is to raise your rate. To raise your rate, you make more profit. Yep. So if you can do less work and make the same profit, well, then obviously that's what lenders are doing. Now the last 4 or 5 months, as it loosened up a little bit in guidelines, in the guidelines for the state for reopening, bars and the stay at home provisions. What they've done is the lenders were slower to get back and change those guidelines back to normal. And as they tried to, we went right back to almost at the stay-at-home orders again. And so now it's like this, they're caught in the middle. So that's why they want to go ahead and raise rates again. And again, it's about profitability over volume because they can't handle the volume. So let's make the profit.
Yep.
And that's a great point.
And you know what? One of the economists we follow fairly closely, Barry Habib, he called that a week or two ago. He said, hey, you're going to hear that the 10-year treasury is going lower, but watch it because you're going to start hearing rates are going to go higher because they don't want the volume. They might as well make more on it. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you're talking about there. And that was also a very good point, Troy, about these guidelines, because these guidelines are now, it's harder to get a lot of these mortgages. So rates are lower, but guidelines are tougher. So they're not giving mortgages out to just everybody anymore. So you've got to jump through more hoops. There's more overlays. There's more conditions. So that's a very, very important thing that you need to be paying attention to when you're out there, because some of these conditions and stuff to get a loan have completely changed. So what you might have been pre-approved for last year, that loan just doesn't exist this year. Plus you've got things like verification of employment. It used to just be a condition that had to get done while you're in escrow on the loan. Now they're getting that verification of employment, but they want it within, a day to 3 days before you close escrow, before they fund that loan. They want another verification that you haven't lost your job due to COVID. So there are things now at the very end of a loan that are taking sometimes quite a bit of time to get pushed through, that are new conditions because of these guidelines tightening. So you really want to talk to your mortgage professional and your agent, see what guideline changes might have happened since you were originally approved for a loan, and just ask them to explain it to you so you know what hurdles you're going to be up against once you actually get into escrow. So
Good. So let's go kind of over our numbers, the actual numbers that we see in all 4 counties a week, and our foreclosure numbers. Ryan, what do we see on foreclosure here?
Well, this is one of the ones I was kind of mentioning last week. I'm like, I got to think there's a baseline in here somewhere. I thought it was 200. Now we're at the 180s. And you know what? We actually, foreclosures went up last week. Let's ring the headline now. Foreclosures are increasing. Yeah. It went up 1. So maybe this is our baseline. You can't get any lower than this 185 number. But we'll see. I gotta think it's gonna skip along this bottom. If it goes lower, it's gonna blow my mind. But
we're approaching all-time lows on foreclosures, guys. There is no foreclosures out there.
And you know what? So we've got a listing that's popping up here. It's it's in default. It's about to get foreclosed on. And it was interesting. My phone rang. It was an investor. Hey, I see this property. You had listed it last year. So there was 2 properties we had listed, and the seller had to declare bankruptcy, and the bankruptcy court got in the middle. It was a complete mess. And so what happened was they just kicked his properties out of the bankruptcy, and he didn't think anything about it. We didn't keep in touch really because we were told the bankruptcy trustee was going to actually sell those properties themselves. Mm-hmm. This investor reached out to us. We contacted the owner, and both of those properties were still in his name, and one is very close to getting foreclosed on. He just kind of thought, oh, well, out of sight, out of mind. I'm not living in them. They're going to get foreclosed on. So one of them, it might actually end up being a foreclosure here. And it was purely because he had a business that went under and it was a bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of one of those things like we talk about all the time. A lot of these are people just not opening their mail, not knowing what recourse is out there for them. And he just thought, well, there's no real equity in it or not much. And, hey, my credit's already damaged because of the BK. But the truth is a foreclosure could be much more damaging if you do want to buy a house in the future than a bankruptcy. So,
well, the problem, Ryan, really is that, 9 months to a year ago when they were listed, they were worth X. Today, they're worth 10% more. But what do you hear? And if you listen to certain news outlets, the market's crashing. It's a bubble. It's this, it's that. So they don't see the opportunity they have in front of them to actually sell the home, help their credit, possibly pocket more money. Yep. They just don't see it. Why? It's because of all that. I blame the news a lot because
it's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's negative news, and that sells newspapers, that sells social media, that sells all the way through. So,
and when coming out of the 2008 debacle, financial crisis, you got to remember, if you had a bankruptcy yesterday, you could get a loan. If you had a foreclosure, you had to wait. So, and I forget what it was off the top of my head. I want to say it was like 2 years FHA, 4 years conventional or something like that, right? But a foreclosure, a deed in lieu of foreclosure, those are bad. A lender doesn't want to see that you stuffed another lender on a home. They're okay with you stuffing some, unsecured unsecured creditors and things like that. That's fine. BK, no worry. We get it. Businesses go down. You might have had a huge health issue and had to BK, because of, unpaid medical bills. They get that. But if you stiff, another mortgage lender, whoa, we don't want to deal with that, because there's so many ways to work it out along the way, loan modifications, forbearances like we're dealing with now, short sales before you get down to that actual foreclosure. So keep that in mind. If you have somebody that thinks that that's their only option, let them know it's not a wise choice. Get with an agent who can help them work it out first. So, back to REOs here. One of the other things that, why we're not going to see a huge increase on REOs. We're going to see that one. Forbearances. There's a lot of homes on forbearances. We've seen those numbers come down for the last 2 months straight. And we're expecting from a lot of the people we follow that are tied in to what Congress is doing. We're expecting, and the Fed and FHFA, we're expecting them to extend a lot of those forbearances out as we go through a second wave of potential lockdowns. So we really don't see that coming to fruition anytime soon. And while this is all going on, what's happening, Troy, with our equity?
Well, our equity keeps going up.
Yep.
I mean, our equity keeps going up and up and up. If we go to the next slide, these are the numbers that we show every single week here in Southern California. Let's go start with Los Angeles County.
Yeah, let me flip with that. And let me just talk about this one time. So more than 59% of the homes out there have over 30% equity. So
they have a mortgage.
These are those that have a mortgage in forbearance and are actually past due. So 77% total have at least 20% equity in their home. Only 1% of homes in forbearance actually have negative equity.
I don't even know where those are at, actually.
Yeah, and so they had to have just bought, yesterday, right, and then go into forbearance the next day. So you've got 0 to 10% equity, right here, 9% of homes, if you're at least at let's say 5% equity, you could probably eke out of that house. So this is a very, very interesting graph right there.
Yeah,
so
95% of all, and let's put a ball of wax here. 95% of all people who are in forbearance or have inquired about forbearance actually could sell their homes and not have a scratch or a dent on their credit report.
Yep.
And that is ultimately where you want to be, because when this is over, the pandemic, who knows? They can get a vaccine tomorrow, the next day, they can get the vaccine at the end of the year. You get your job back, things kind of normalize a little bit.
Optimistic.
Right? I'm just going over what the possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you get your job back, and next you're like, oh, wow, I sold, I've gone through this whole time, I haven't made a payment. If I can get through the forbearance, that's great. That's the Band-Aid or the patch that I needed. But if you're in a situation where you don't have forbearance as an option, sell the house. Because you're going to, 95% of you out there are going to reap monetary benefit from it, and you will have money in your pocket going into that rental or going into the next situation you're going into.
Yep, absolutely. So, that's such a great point.
So Los Angeles County here. So we're going over the numbers in the 4 counties. We're going to do it fairly quickly. What we see in this, I mean, I after I did these numbers this week and I kind of analyzed them a little bit, I mean, Los Angeles County is just caught right up to the other 3 counties that surround it in the fact that the amount of actives, and it's scaring me right now, the amount of actives went down. We were hoping for this big July swoon up in the amount of actives, because then that would stabilize the market a little bit. I know that, it's a seller's market, you need to have it. But my gosh, it went down, and it went down enough to scare us, because the pendings went through the roof.
Yes, they really did.
They did, and it's very scary, because now we're just seeing as we have less inventory out there to sell, what does that do for everybody? It raises prices, and it raises prices substantially faster. Yep. And we see the solds gone up, and it's at a 6-month high on solds as well. So we're really looking at, the pendings and solds are just on fire and the actives are not. And we just need to see that. We really need to see that.
Yep, absolutely. So what do we got going on in Orange County?
It's ugly, and it's really ugly here. Again, we're seeing quite a lot of the stability of actives, and unfortunately we're seeing a stability of significantly higher pendings. And again, for the second week in a row, third week in a row actually, we're seeing more sold than actives, and that's scary because now we're coming down to 30 to 45 days of inventory. What does that mean, Ryan? Tell people what that means.
It means if there's no new homes listed, that we will sell out of all homes listed for sale in the next 30 days.
And you got to think that on the market, there's a 20% fudge factor in the respect there's 20% that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah.
In Orange County,
and you have all
LA
these high-end properties too. You got $11 million properties,
yes.
$15 million properties. I mean, they normally take years to sell, and they're now going within a year.
Yeah.
And that's it. The latest market for those 2 to 4 million or something like that, I think it was like 200 days. It's completely shaved off a lot of those.
But my point is that those sit on the bottom here.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there, and they're always going to be there. It's just everything off the top is just skimmed right off the top.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. It's sold.
Riverside County, and this is the scariest county of all. There is no ifs, ands, or buts.
Don't you live there? You mean scariest because you're there?
Yeah. Well, it's scary because there's just not enough inventory, and we are going to see an enormous price increase in this county. This was the affordability. The San Bernardino, Riverside counties were the affordability counties when you couldn't afford Southern, Orange and Los Angeles counties. You were pushed out. If you worked in downtown, you went down the 10 or the 210, and you would drive in. So you'd go into Pomona, Ontario. You'd buy homes in there, and then just take that drive in. The bedroom communities outside of Orange County, it's Corona, which literally is now Orange County. I mean, the housing prices are just Orange County prices. But you would look at those bedroom communities, and you'd say, I can afford it there and just take the drive. Unfortunately, we're seeing that Riverside County is just keeps going up and up and up. The solds are ridiculous. The pendings are ridiculous. Guys, we're just coming into a huge crunch in amount of properties that are in the market and that are just being taken off immediately. So
this is one of the things we talked about back in December. I think it was maybe even as early as November when they released the new conforming loan limits by county, and we're like, wow, they really raised them in Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange and LA County. But what's crazy is in Riverside and San Bernardino County, the conforming loan limit is $510,400, and I've got clients that are right in that mix. They're looking between $5 and $550. They could afford, if they could get a conforming loan higher, they could afford it.
Right.
But what's stopping them is they can only get that loan up to that conforming loan limit, and then they've got some cash to sprinkle on top. And that market in there, it is so hot. There's just nothing available. When something goes on, it's instantly sold. If they raise the conforming loan limit, which they'll probably do leading into 2021, you can see a huge pop in those price points, because a home that's it's going for $530, $540 right now, because that's all anybody can afford with what they have as far as down payment on top of it. Boom, that's going to jump up. If you jump up to 600,000, there is a big discrepancy there on pricing. And, you've got areas where LA County borders San Bernardino County, and it's one street to the next. And so you've got a $700,000 home that's identical to a $540,000 home next to each other in places. And it's purely because of the max loan limits in those areas. Yeah. So there's some, like you're saying, Riverside's about to pop in price. San Bernardino.
Go ahead, San Bernardino.
One of the only things really keeping it down, I feel, is conforming loan limits in a lot of these places.
Hit the next slide, Ryan. Medium home prices.
Yeah. And there you go.
We're looking at it. We're seeing bumps in obviously Los Angeles County, and we're seeing it actually all the way across the board here. The only county that kind of settled down a little bit is Orange County.
Yeah.
Right. And because we're still seeing some homes hit the market out there, even though it's really tightening and it's scary out there, we're still seeing that $400,000 and $500,000 homes, but. Well, guys, we appreciate that you watched us today. We'll be on next Friday night, and we're going to go over what happened this week, right?
Hopefully it was a good week.
And hopefully it was a good week. And hopefully we're seeing a lot more actives on the market. I mean, that's the number one thing. If you're out there looking for homes, you know exactly what we're talking about. You know, we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're very interactive. Please comment. Any comments you have, we're more than happy to answer them for you, or tell us how you think we're doing. We definitely would like the feedback.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining us. Peace and God bless.
And get that payday.